So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay after getting through part 1 of the extravaganza of ridiculousness that we have for this tell-all of 5 episodes.
Yeah, I was actually kind of relieved it wasn't as terrible as I thought it would be them living the house. But at the same time, we only just got started, which we have a couple of couples that, were barely in it. So we'll kind of briefly talk about what happened, but, there might not be a whole lot to discuss. Let's start off with the couple who got there the first, which was Patrick and Thais. So Patrick and Thais think they are the most normal couple, and they also have some thoughts that Big Ed, they hope that he doesn't go after any of them, and they also hope that Gino and Jasmine keep the toe-sucking to themselves. Thais leaves Patrick to drag their bags inside the house, and they are just in shock about how amazing and big this house is. As I said, they are the first ones there, so they get to pick their room. Patrick is expecting there to be lots of fights in this house, so, they're kind of hesitant. Later, Patrick is hanging out with Kobe and Gino, and he tells them that he wants to have more kids. And he means now, because he'd rather have more kids rather now than later. So he's kind of jealous of Kobe and Emily because he makes some comment. How did you convince her to have more kids? I don't think Kobe had to do much convincing. He just keeps getting her pregnant. It just happens. Yeah, so not a whole lot going with them.
Yeah, and then I have, speaking of Emily and Kobe, they come and they call this extravaganza their baby moon before their third kid because
what a
she
terrible baby moon.
Oh, yeah.
This is not the baby moon you want with some of these volatile people.
I internally, and I think we should just stick with this, have just been calling this the challenge house. Really. That's basically what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is, I do not want to spend my baby moon in the challenge house with Ed and Angela. That sounds terrible.
Right. It sounds stressful. Isn't that the last thing you want while you're 8 months pregnant?
Yeah. And so either way, well, I mean, if she can do more or less what she kind of did and is like, look, there's some baller bedrooms in here and I can just, because I'm pregnant, be like, gotta go to bed, guys. Later.
Yeah.
It might not be the worst thing. So they get there right before Ashley and they have a warm meeting in the driveway. So when Emily comes in, she jokes about how she doesn't want to stand with the other women who are all skinny and not pregnant because she is very, very, very pregnant. And so she's like, I'm going to go over here and stand next to these fat guys. This is perfect. It'll be great for me. But then she sits down and the other two women who have been pregnant who are there, Thais and Jasmine, are like, oh, do you need us to rub your legs? What do you need? What do you need? I'll get you some water. They start babying her, pampering her over there. So we get to that. We have, some of the other couples go around. Kobe stirs quite a bit of shit in the house. Not quite as much as Patrick, who is the king shit stirrer so far.
Yeah, for sure.
And the actual tell-all, Sean basically just thanks Emily for even being here. And they say the baby is due in 3 weeks. And so that's pretty much all we see of them right now. Just, we do get a lot of Emily reaction shots because the other thing that's going to happen in the challenge house is Emily's going to be sober and everybody else, based on the amount of liquor on the thing, is going to be completely sloshed.
Oh gosh. Some more than others, I'm sure. Yeah, okay. So let's talk about Ashley and Manuel, since they arrive right after Emily and Kobe. So Ashley says that they're in a really good place right now, but she admits that that's not always the case. But I mean, like, really, how is this any different than any other time we've seen them?
It's just always constant state of being in between, for sure.
Right. And so she says they have explosive fights. And at the moment, Ashley, she wants Manuel to get her pregnant. She was feeling inspired after seeing Emily. They sneak off to claim a room before Emily and Kobe get a chance. Manuel goes to hang out with the men later, and then Kobe says that Ashley and Manuel's relationship is really based on sex. And Manuel says, well, that's because he's a Scorpio. So I don't know. Maybe Ashley's rubbing off on him a little bit. Ashley says that she had a lot of fun in the house from the night before, but she also says that a lot of people were sleeping in separate beds or rooms, and Ashley definitely seems like she's playing therapist on
sure.
The actual studio stage tell-all portion. So she's... I don't know. She's not unreasonable, so I appreciate her role. But at the same time, it always makes me wonder, like, what is Sean supposed to be there for? Shouldn't Sean be the one saying these things?
Well, yeah. I mean, how much of this is going to be in that? So much of this didn't have Sean in it at all. We had the house. We had the backstage where all of his stuff went down. Sean's not asking any questions. We have the other cast members doing it. So, yeah, her days might be numbered.
Right. She better start earning her keep around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. The last couple we really didn't hear much of was Lauren and Alexi. So they get there after basically everybody. It's already dark out. They arrive. There's like no drama at all. Like when they get there, nobody's like, what about your... Nobody even asks about her surgery. Like we have nothing.
I don't even think I heard Alexi talk this entire episode.
I don't know, but he did, actually. I think you might be right. They're also sitting there backstage. Lauren's main job this first episode was to make really big eyes when somebody said something ridiculous, and that's pretty much all they did.
Right, yeah. Then we had Sophie and Rob. So Sophie and Rob actually did arrive together, even though they tried to make it look like Rob was by himself in the car. And Sophie asked Rob to go in without her for a moment because she has anxiety and just needs a moment by herself to collect her thoughts. So Sophie says that Rob broke up with her, and she doesn't really know what they are. She says they just aren't anything, but she also says that they have been hanging out. Rob is immediately asked as soon as he gets in the house if they're still together, and he just kind of doesn't really say anything specifically about the relationship. He just kind of is like, oh, Sophie will be here, but, she's, don't worry about anything. It's fine. She's here. Sophie is nervous and needs a very stiff drink when she gets in the house. Rob says that when things are good, they have great chemistry. Kobe asks if they're still having sex, and Rob kind of stutters and say, it's not on me. And Sophie says that he rejected her for the first 6 months, and now she admits that, she's the one rejecting him. But Rob, he says that he may have rejected her like once, but not for 6 months. Ashley tells Sophie that at the last tell-all, she was really quiet. And Sophie says that she will try to be open, but at the same time, maybe they won't all be friends by the end of it. So not a whole lot going on there. And it is kind of weird that they don't really have, and not to say that every couple needs a label, but it's like they even admitted they're not necessarily trying, but they're hanging out. It was like, but what does that mean?
I don't know what that means either. It's a weird in-between that's probably... It's a weird in-between that seems to make sense to people who are when you're young. And then when you get older, you're like, no, if I broke up with you, we're broken up. Stop. Right. I'm not, like, this is weird. This is not weird, but they do it because they're lonely and that's the person that's comfortable. Right. And that's just like, and they can just hang out or whatever, especially because they moved to Austin together.
Right.
And I don't know that they have a ton of people around anyway, but yeah, but that's always been one of their issues has been communication and not communicating and coming to an agreement about what they're doing here. Seems to be pretty par for the course for them.
Yeah.
All right. So of the people, so now just to recap, because this is something that keeps going. So we have 4, 5 people who are not really in this episode. I'm sure we'll hear more from them later. But of those 5, 2 of them two of them are not really together and they're not sleeping together. Like that seems to be something that comes up a lot.
Right.
So let's move on to I have two groups. I'm going to save the bulkier one for later because we have the crazier one, the more infuriating one first, and that's talk about Angela and Michael. So this one had a lot more meat to it. So before Angela even gets there, the rest of the cast is sitting around being like, oh, I'm kind of like worried about when Angela gets here. How should we deal with her? And Ed has the ideas about how to deal with her, which is just don't engage, just walk away. But while they're in the middle of asking Ed how to deal with Angela, which of all people, a producer comes in to say that Angela and Michael aren't going to be at the house tonight. So this leads to mass speculation on the part of everyone. Emily kind of comes up with the theory that Angela doesn't want anyone to meet Michael and hear his side of the story. She wants to control the narrative and not have him mingle with the other people. And the rest of the cast seem to think, yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like it would be what she would do. Sure.
Yeah.
There's more speculation later about this the next day in the makeup room and also backstage about what's going on and whether they're even going to show up today. But they do. And what we see is the people in the green room after they get their makeup and wardrobe and everything done. It's the guys because they don't have as much hair to do, I guess. They see Michael first. Michael comes in. They is like, oh, hey, good to see you. Hugs and, great handshakes all around. And they ask him, like, what was going on? Why didn't you reach your house last night? And he said that he and Angela had a misunderstanding the night before. And they try to pry a little bit. And he just says, it's private. It's private. But, it's just things. So then we get Angela, the always dramatic shot of Angela coming out of the car. She's coming out and telling us that nothing in this relationship is like she's imagined. She's not as happy as she thought she would be. And while she's getting her makeup done, she tells Ed that her and Michael had a major verbal throwdown, and she wants the thing she wants the most is for everyone here to understand that he isn't who he's presenting himself to be, right? She's giving, which is funny, and she doesn't want him to get in there and be able to weasel his way with his lies and tell that it's literally what Emily said was going on. She's just spinning it as if she's the good guy in that situation. I don't want Michael to tell his story without me there to yell at him about it. So Ed takes Angela at her word, because of course he would, and says, well, if that's how it is, you should send him back. So back at the green room, and this is before Angela gets to the green room, everyone's kind of encouraging Michael to step up. And what's your side of the story? What's going on? And he just doesn't. So Angela, just like always, is the last person on stage. And boy, howdy, her outfit is something. It is shiny fuchsia jumpsuit, and she's also wearing a tiara. I don't know why. But she starts off very aggressively. She sits in the love seat with Michael and just is like, she's like, why are you in here? Why are you here? Why are you in the green room? I told you not to get out of my fucking sight. And then
nuts.
Yeah. So then then it just starts turning into an out of control rant, as is typical. So she yells at him about doing the nice guy routine. She yells at him about how he sleeps on the couch and he doesn't have sex with her. And the other cast members are just wide-eyed, what the hell is going on? They can't believe that they say in private in the interviews, why is she not letting him talk? Every time he tries to talk to say something, she screams at him in the middle of it. And that's even Jasmine is like, let this guy breathe. Why are you yelling at him? So before long, she just goes off on it's just stream of consciousness that we are not fully involved. Then she's like, how dare you put it? And what about your whore in New Jersey? And it's like, who mentioned the whore in New Jersey? Where is this coming from? Right. So in the middle of this, producers seem to be like, whoa, this is good TV. Let's put a hold on this and do this on stage. But, that doesn't happen. She's already fired up, and we get, I think we're going to do this for over 5 different tell-all segments.
Oh, gosh,
this is the first time she walks off. I don't know. I'm putting the over-under at 6, I would say. The number of episodes plus 1 is the number of times she walks off and says, I'm done, right?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, that would be a good one, too. How many times do you think she'll say, I'm done?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Even Rob, I say even Rob, but Rob, who is not a great person at making himself look good in this show, made himself look bad quite a many times, is like, Michael's not even making her look bad. She's making herself look bad.
Right. You can only make yourself look like a fool. But yeah, I agree with you. Rob, it's like, Rob was siding with Ed. I'm like, that right there, like, stop, Rob. Like, come on, you're trying to win people. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't care about winning people over, but you're trying to make yourself not look like an idiot or a jerk. Like, side with Ed. That's like the worst thing you can do.
Well, it's just funny because Angela goes off stage and is like, I can't believe that everybody is believing the lies that he's telling.
He hasn't even said anything.
Say anything. How could he lie? At no point did he say any words.
Yeah, that's what's also ridiculous too, is like, she should wait until he says something. Then she can accuse him of lying. But like, even if she heard what he had said, because, you know, she thought that he was going to spin whatever happened the night before, or the reason why they didn't come to the house. She thought he was going to spin it in a negative way. I would say that Michael is fairly good at being kind of vague to, you know, save face for them as a couple, you know?
Sure.
It's not on Michael, like, I shouldn't say on him, but he doesn't want them to look like a fake couple, right? He wants them to look like a real couple because, you know, for whatever reason, like, if they are or, you know, whatever, but if anything, he wants them to look like a real couple so it doesn't look like he's trying to scam her. Right. And so of course he's going to, you know, he's not going to throw her under the bus and be like, Angie's terrible or whatever. Cause then people are going to question, why are you with this woman then?
Yeah, right.
So he's going to make it look like she's, you know, she's fine. You know, yes, they have challenges, but they're trying to work on it. And he's not going to try and make it seem like she's this horrible, you know, like demonic person. So I don't know why she doesn't trust in that a little bit more, because he was pretty vague when they were asking him like, oh, did you guys get in a huge argument last night? And he's like, oh, something like that. Like he was very like, kind of, you know, like, well, wasn't that bad, you know?
And then we even got we got a couple of spaces of them on the stage, right? And then it was kind of, it was more or less the same thing. It was, you know, Sean being like, Michael, are you going to tell us the truth about stuff? And he was like, yeah, I'm here to tell the truth. And she was like, you stupid son of a bitch. You've never told the truth a goddamn time in your fucking life. It was like, oh my God. And then another time, I forget which couple it was, but another time Michael stepped in to say something about like, oh, you know, you got to be a man. You got to do this. It might have been Gino and Jasmine. I can't remember.
Yes, I think so. And it was totally reasonable.
It was
saying.
A reasonable thing to say. It was a milquetoast. It wasn't like, you know, aggressive or thing. Totally reasonable. And she's just like, and she just looks at him as like, you son of a bitch, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. I was like, what?
And it's just like, oh my God. And so when you hear these allegations of Angela abusing him, like verbally, emotionally, even physically, it's like, it all scams, because we've seen this pattern of behavior with her where she is so aggressive and like so mean to him where he can't even say anything. He can't say a single word, because even Jasmine points out, like, he can't finish a sentence. Just let the man finish a sentence.
And that's what we're about. How could he be lying if he's not even expressing anything, right? And so, that's why this triggers so many people, and some people are so mad at Angela, because this is kind of textbook psychological abuse to, you know, make sure that he's never out of your sight, so that he can never control ever what's ever told about that relationship. You have a complete control of the story of that relationship and the story of what's going on. Right. And then it's classic, like with the Darvo technique, you deny, you attack, and you reverse the victim and the offender. Right. Anything she does to him is because he's being, and we see that a lot, right? Anytime she's always look what you made me do. Right. Yeah. Whatever it is, whatever unreasonable, ridiculous, I took your phone, I won't let you speak, you can't leave my sight. is always, you made me do that.
Yeah, you made me smash your phone because of the things that you had on your phone. Yeah,
Right.
it's not possible for her to take any accountability. And speaking of not being able to take any accountability, that moves into our next couple that we saw a segment on, and that was Ed and Liz. So Liz arrives separately from Ed onto the house, and she's warmly greeted by the women, and they notice that she looks so happy. She jokes about losing 230 pounds and says, and the wind will blow Ed in later. Jasmine tells her that he's a bad person and he's ugly inside and out. We find out that Liz and Ed haven't talked in 6 months, and Liz gets emotional thinking about seeing him. Jasmine says that she has her back if she needs anything. Liz says that she's really happy, but it wasn't what she envisioned 6 months ago. She assures everyone in the house that this is the final breakup. Ed arrives shortly after, and the room just seems to go quiet. People reluctantly greet him, and Jasmine refuses to hug Ed, saying that she doesn't like hugging. And so, as you were saying before, Patrick the shit stirrer throws Jasmine under the bus and says, well, I got a hug. Ashley, Liz, and Emily are at the bar later, and Ed comes in saying that he needs a shot. Ed is choking down his shot and tells them that he's been sick with allergies. And then, the other girls kind of fade out as Ed is telling Liz privately that he doesn't miss San Diego. And Liz casually says that, well, he's back to his own ways of being self-centered and not asking about anyone else. Ed kind of chuckles and says that she looks great and he misses her, as Liz then starts to cry, and Emily and Ashley kind of make their very quiet exit. Liz says that she has all this animosity towards him, but as soon as she saw him, it's like old times. Ed also starts crying. Jasmine thinks that Ed is just crying for sympathy, and she's kind of surprised that they even hugged for as long as they did. Ed says that they have so much love and hate for one another, and Ed is trying to explain himself to Liz, but she just tells him to stop. Their conversation is interrupted by Alexi and Lauren's arrival, and Liz accidentally calls Ed baby. At the tell-all, Liz says that it was an emotional reunion, and she was surprised that she wasn't as angry as she thought she would be. Liz updates us that she is back in San Diego full-time, and Ed is still in Arkansas going to church, and he claims not dating. A relationship is the furthest thing from his mind. But Liz calls him out and says that she saw him on a dating app within a month of leaving, which was a slap in the face when he says that he's working on himself. He says that there's nothing to do in Arkansas. Ed then says it takes 2 to make a relationship and 2 to break it. They get to recap the show's clip, and Ed gives a knowing nod when Liz says that he didn't even tell her that the wedding was canceled. After the clip, Ed then, for some reason, starts calling her a liar. He says that he told Liz there were bell peppers in the dish, and Liz said that they were jalapenos, and they started screaming at him when they're recapping the taco pasta incident, which I don't know why we're still talking about that. Ed said that she lost it in front of his family, and he was just so embarrassed. Ashley points out that he claims it takes 2, and it sounds like he's saying, it's really just her, and it's her fault. He has taken no accountability for even canceling the wedding without telling Liz. He says that they broke up so many times because of her temper. Rob, oh God.
Immediately doesn't take accountability. She's like, you've never said anything was your fault. He's like, well, isn't that really her fault? I'm like, oh my God, you infuriating asshole.
Rob then defends Ed, saying that he was probably reminded of her temper with the argument, and that, he could have told her that the wedding was canceled. Liz then brings up how Ed was hugging another woman when he was trying to meet up with Liz at the bar, if you recall, to try to talk things out after the wedding was canceled. Liz makes a joke about Ed not being able to get another woman because she doesn't really think anything was going on with them. They all agree, everybody on the show agrees that not being together is a blessing for both of them. Ashley says that what Ed did caused pain and trauma by calling off the wedding and just not telling Liz. We get a clip of Ed and Liz throwing insults at each other, including Ed's small penis and Liz's trashy friends. Patty, Liz's mom, comes out and says that she wants to kill Ed because he's got a huge ego. She admits that Liz has a temper, but it only seems to come out when Ed mistreats her. Ed says Patty told him that Liz has emotional problems and a temper when they first got together, and Patty calls Ed a liar. Lauren and the other women say it's not right the way Ed talks to women. And Ed thinks that it's not right having Liz talk about his penis. Angela thinks that Liz still loves Ed. Angela's so out of it. Like, come on, get a clue. Anyways, Liz doesn't deny that she did have love for Ed, but she doesn't anymore. She is brought to tears when they bring up her new man because she says that he is so supportive. Her new man, Jason, is brought on stage and they kiss and he wipes away her tears. Jason says that they're moving forward and Ed will never disrespect Liz again. Ed wishes him luck sarcastically. We find out that Liz actually slid into Jason's DMs on social media. Patty loves Jason and says that he is so respectful. Jason says that Liz has never screamed or yelled, so he's never witnessed what Ed has witnessed, and Ed tells him not to sweep anything under the rug. Ed says, man to man, if issues come up, because Ed knows they will, they should deal with it. Michael tells Ed to own his shit and let her be her and just not to add anything, which good advice, Michael. And then Angela's like yelling at him to scream to shut up. Jason says that he just wants Liz to be happy. They've been together for 4 months, but they already know they want a future together. They have plans to move in together in a couple of months. Jason tells Ed just to live his life and just to like leave Liz alone and just not hurt her anymore. Patty wants to close by telling Ed that she pities him, but also, in the same breath, wants to say that he's going to purgatory hell unless he changes. All right, so, do you think that Liz is truly over Ed based on what we saw? And do you think Angela was, as I mentioned, kind of out of touch, read the room?
I don't think so. I think Angela was onto something. I don't know if it's like actually still in love with him, but I think that Liz is trying to put on a big show about how she's so over him, and she's not over him. Like we have a lot of the, you know, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. And she's in the, I'm going to make a big show of hate right now. But even she does that, she accidentally calls him baby and he doesn't even notice. She brings it up. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't call you that. Haha, I called you baby. Huh? I'm like, I was like, well, that's weird. That was a thing that happened. Like, yeah, that seemed, yellow flaggy to me at least.
Right. To me, my interpretation of the situation is that she's not over what happened. Right.
Sure.
I think she's over Ed in the sense that she has another man. Like she wouldn't want to move on with Ed, but I feel like the hurt that whole relationship with Ed, she is not over that. And I think those tears of sadness are like kind of what happened to her, right? And she's traumatized. She's not quite over it. And I don't believe she is. But I don't think her not being over it means that she's still in love with him.
Yeah, I don't know that you would say in love or whatever. But like, I also think that Angela, who we discussed in the last one, is probably an abuser, recognizes the signs that I still have this person on the hook. They might be saying one thing, but this person's still on the hook. I think and she's well aware of that. And like if Ed played his cards right, he could reel her back in if he wanted to. Because with the new man especially, like, I did not like that dude. That dude was a jerk, right? And the guy is kind of based on, it seems like, at least what we had, so much of what they have is based on him being like, yeah, your old boyfriend is a fucking dick. Look at that asshole. Isn't that a little guy with a small dick? And like, that was like, why? Like that, wouldn't that turn you off? Like I don't know. It seems like to me it would. Like I wouldn't want my current partner, like even if he were in the situation and I wasn't happy, I don't need them going off on my other partner. If he was just like, look, we're happy with Ed. I don't really think about Ed much. Like it doesn't matter. He doesn't matter to me. He's in the past. That's much more of a thing than being with someone who's going to actively pile on your ex with you. That's strange to me.
I didn't find him to be as terrible as like kind of you interpreted that situation. I just thought he was just okay. Like I liked that he seems like he's more mature than Ed in some ways, but at the end of the day, dude's 29, right? And so it's like, I feel like I give certain allowances. At the end of the day, freaking Ed, what is he, 63?
Well, yeah, Ed's clearly the worst, but yeah.
So you should be more mature than that. So the fact that they're like, to me, they're both trying to take the high road to make it look like they're the better person, but at least one of them has the excuse of, he's 29, like, I give him a break for that, you know? So for me, I didn't think he was as terrible as, like, you kind of interpreted
it did. Well,
situation.
there were two things that stuck out is, like, multiple times he went after Ed's appearance.
Yes.
And that that's bullshit. Like, that does nothing to do with anything, right? So, yeah, and that really put me on the wrong foot. But it's just like, I don't know. I don't have opinion. I want him to do, and I want for everybody to do, like, you know, the Don Draper thing from Mad Men, where the guy's like, well, I think you blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I don't think about you at all. Right. Yeah. That's what I want these people to do to these guys. Like, and Ed, like, when he instigates and starts, the way to diffuse Ed, and we should know this by now, is just be like, thanks, Ed. Okay. Anyway, what were you know, and then go on talking about what you were talking about, and leave him out of it. Like, he thrives on the pettiness, and he thrives on bringing, poking you to get the reaction out of it. And she's still going to do that. Like, Liz she's also someone who has trouble not having the last word. Right. And that's the kind of person that he's just going to, like, feast on. Also, what is purgatory hell? That's not a thing. Purgatory is a thing. Hell is a thing.
I was going to say, I don't know. I thought you would know. I thought it was a Catholic thing. I didn't know.
No, purgatory is a thing. Purgatory is like, you aren't good enough to get into heaven, but you clearly don't deserve to go to hell. So you have to, like, I don't know, spend a couple thousand years working off your sins or whatever, right? That's purgatory. Right. Hell is hell, but they're different places. That's like, why don't you go to Tennessee, Georgia? And it's like, those are different places. How can I go to Tennessee, Georgia? Those are weird.
Maybe she is
didn't
like,
leave an or out of there. Like,
no, maybe like purgatory hell is like you're in purgatory, so maybe it's still like kind of earthy, and then it's like hell on earth.
Maybe. I don't know what she was going for. I don't either,
confused. But yeah, irrelevant. The word hell is in there. She wants bad things for Ed, even though she claims she doesn't want
bad things for Ed. She thinks he's going to get bad things unless he changes.
Oh, okay.
She would never wish hell on someone. She
right.
Sure, you're going there.
Yeah.
So anyway, speaking of other people who don't wish ill, this is the couple we got the most of this time for sure was Gino and Jasmine.
Yeah.
So Jasmine and Gino actually get to the house second, right after Patrick and Thais. And Jasmine, who in the house is wearing her beauty pageant sash.
Oh my gosh. You mean stash?
Yes, her stash. Yes, as Patrick called it. So she says she's going to treat everyone in the car, at least. She says she's going to treat everyone with respect and expects the same from them. Gino isn't sure he's going to get along with Angela. The one thing I also could side note there is I can't remember which of these people have met each other before.
I know, same. I was like, I don't remember who was on what season, but I feel like Gino and Jasmine should have met everyone at this point, right? Because they've been on a bazillion seasons.
That's what I was like. Okay. So, but anyway, Jasmine thinks that the problem isn't going to get along. It's Angela getting along with her specifically. It's Angela getting along with any human being. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So after they get there and learn that Pat and Thais took their first choice of the bedroom and took the big one, they get to work on picking the second best bedroom for Jasmine, because she says Gino needs to find his own room because unless he's going to have sex with her, she's not allowed in her bed. So this comes up again with Kobe, like did you know that they're not having sex? And Kobe's like, I don't know. I can't believe it. Right. So then we jump forward to Tell All Day One, where they're there for the rest of the things. And then we move to the Tell All on Day One, where Gino in an interview says he's terrified because him and Jasmine had an argument that morning that started. It was bizarre. Like, Jasmine didn't want to change in front of him. And so she told him he had to get out of the room. And then he didn't want to get out of the room. And then they started yelling. And then clothes got thrown all over the floor. And I don't know. It was weird. Backstage at the studio, Gino says she doesn't want to be in a room with Gino. And I guess she means a changing room at this point because he was super rude to her last night. And especially she already said she didn't want to change in front of him. And from behind the curtain, like we didn't even know he was there. Gino's just like, well, that's because you're being a bitch. And it's
like, my gosh.
Like, which is like, That's when they show Patrick, and he's just like, listen, I don't want to say that I'm better than other people, but we're better than them.
Well, the bar is not high, Patrick, so, you know.
So then Manuel steps in and starts talking to Jasmine in Spanish, which actually seems like a very good solution to this problem because Gino cannot now understand what they're saying about him.
Right.
So he's just kind of like, let's not do this. Let's calm down. And she's still complaining and being upset. And then Manuel's like, well, let's see. Maybe you can take turns. I'll look in. And then he looks in the changing room. He's like, oh, no, he's in his underwear. I didn't need to see that. So Emily then offers to share her dressing room with Jasmine. So Gino then comes out and says, this is just another example of how she treats him like dirt and a prime example of why, I don't want to sleep with her. So we come out and the actual tell-all on stage, and Sean gets to them, and Jasmine says that she still loves Gino, and he does say that he still loves her, even though because she's like, I don't know if he loves me or not because I don't feel the love. She thinks he's too controlling of her life, and she can't even manage to have the freedom to go to the gym when she wants to. So they argue for a bit about who deserves credit for making the move, because I guess she just got her driver's license to maybe make that possible. And Gino wants credit for that too. And she's like, why would you get credit for it? I did the paperwork. I did the test. He's like, no, I did that. And they argue, why don't I get any credit? Like, if there was any phrase that's Gino's catchphrase for the season, it's I deserve credit.
Right.
So that brings us to the paperwork. So Sean asks if Gino has filed the adjustments of status yet. And he says he did file for the permanent residency, but seems like not really confident about it. He's like, well, I did file for it. And so everyone expects Jasmine to be happy about that, but she's still kind of upset that it took him 8 months. It took 8 months of begging before he got off his ass and did it. And he's upset because, again, I didn't get enough credit. So Lauren kind of pipes up and agrees that it is a lot of work, but, she deserved for him to do it as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. And then Gino says that he's not interested in filing for her immigration adjustment of status if their relationship is falling apart. And then Ashley steps in, is like, well, then you shouldn't have brought her here. It's unfair to hold her immigration status over her head as a part of maintaining or fixing this relationship. That's just an asshole.
Speak it.
So then they bring Dana and Michelle, with Gino's cousin and his wife, from Gino's family, to ask about what they think things are going. So Dana starts off, they ask, oh, what do you think the issue is? And Dana, again, Gino's cousin, is like, well, Jasmine's a really good communicator, so that's not the issue. And Gino's like, what? She's a terrible communicator. We have all kinds of communication issues. And Dana's like, you have all kinds of communication issues. I always know exactly what Jasmine wants. This is really weird. He's like, are you really listening to what she's saying, or are you just stubbornly deciding that you want things your way? They also continue to throw him under the bus when they ask if he's controlling her. And Michelle says, I don't know. He doesn't really do much for her. And he says, but I offer to drive her places. And she's like, wait, what are you talking about? You just told me it's too much trouble. Like the other day, you told me it was too much of a hassle to drive her to the gym. Jasmine says he will eventually drive her to the gym, but then later on, she has to pay for it with his, wanting credit and being well, I took you to the gym and this is how you treat me. So Gino isn't working anymore. So another question comes up is, what are you doing all day? And they're like, besides watching football. And you know what? That is when Alexi talks, because Alex is like, football season's over. Like that.
You're like, I know. I follow it too.
Yeah, he's like, that can't be the excuse. That's over. So he says he's been working on this paperwork, which got a lot of looks from everybody. It's like, he's been working on the paperwork for 7 months. That doesn't
Is he slow?
Right. Yeah. So Michelle thinks that he's putting minimal effort into the relationship, but he says he's only doing that because they fight so much that he's just worn out. That's also why they don't have sex, which they haven't done for, Jasmine says 8 months, and Gino's like, hasn't been that long, maybe like 4 or 5, which I feel like Jasmine has it written down in a book somewhere, exactly the last time they did it. Right?
Yeah.
So Dana suggests that, he's like, how are we supposed to have sex if we're fighting all the time? And his cousin is like, makeup sex. That's like thing that people get really excited about, but okay.
I know. Ashley Manuel can school you on it.
Right? So Jasmine also suggests that Gino always blames the fights for their lack of intimacy, and she thinks that he oftentimes intentionally starts fights when things are going well, just so they won't have to be intimate later. So Patrick pipes up and says maybe it's a control thing, but whatever, just bang your wife, bruh. Like, and they ask him what it would take, and he's like, I tried that before and it just didn't work. So Patrick, they ask what it would take for him to forgive her to the point where it would be they could move forward, but Jasmine says she's apologized so many times over and over for everything she's done wrong, and she doesn't even get not just sex, she doesn't get any kind of intimacy, cuddles, hugs, nothing, even seeing him naked, which she says she's never seen. Like, I have never seen him naked at all. And she says clearly they've, been intimate and had sex and everything, but it's always like down to his underwear, and then he's either under the sheets or in the dark, and like, so there's never a full body seeing him naked. So the other men clarify. He was like, yes, we've done that. And the other guys are there. That means no hat. And he's like, I don't wear my hat during sex. So we've never done it. And like, they're like, but haven't you like taken a shower together, or like, we know you did like the golden shower thing in the hot tub in the hotel. Like, we know that happened. And he was like, oh, I guess I was in my underwear for that. And I was like, oh, gross. So Sophie says she can relate to Gino not wanting to have sex while he's upset. And Lauren doesn't think he recognizes that maybe he's part of the problem, which he can't be, he says, because she starts all the fights. All the fights are her fault. So at this point, we see a flashback to when Jasmine accuses him of being addicted to porn, because we want to talk about that for a while. So she says she's caught him watching porn several times, and she even takes precautions when she leaves and comes back into the house to make sure that she doesn't catch him again. Very much like loud leaving and loud coming back. Oh, I'm home again. I'm walking up to the bedroom, right? So anyway, the latest discovery, she says, you don't even want to know about it. So of course, everybody wants to know about it. So she says she has search history evidence that he was Googling for one of his former sugar babies on the thing. And that's kind of where we leave off at the tell-alls. And we're like, wait, have you been looking at porn of an ex of yours? It's kind of ex, I guess. And so I guess the Google search. So this is the question I had when I was thinking about it, because we kind of had, and this is not really related to anything. We'll get into the meat and potatoes of it. Which is worse? If you're looking at like an OnlyFans of an ex, or you catch them looking at like old sex and videos that an ex had sent to them.
Both are bad. And to me, they're equally bad.
Both are terrible. Absolutely.
Both are equally as bad, because the fact that you're looking at things that frame your ex in a sexual way, right?
Sure.
Like, so to me, it's like both of them are equally as bad. One is not worse than the other. Yeah,
it's just, it's one of those would you rather things. It's like, okay, are we more concerned that he's looking for new sexual contact relations ways with his ex, or he's stuck with the old, kind of like nostalgically looking back at the old ones, like, which are both, again, I stress, both are bad. Like, both are like unacceptable.
I said, I think one is just as bad as the other, because really what is bad about that situation is you're thinking about your ex sexually. Mm-hmm. So both of those are thinking about your ex sexually. So they're both bad. Whether it's new content, old content, why does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so then let's get to the meat of what happened in the episode. So we're talking about that. What do you think? I mean, I think we're both on the same page. Gino definitely starts these arguments and then blames her for starting them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Does
I think
he
Gino's
know
terrible.
He's doing that? Or does he honestly, or is it like a subconscious starting of the fights? Or is he like actively being like, I think no one will be able to tell when I start the fights because I'll do them so subtly that no one will catch me?
Yeah, I have no idea. But I think that Jasmine is kind of on to something. And I do think it's a weird, like, conspiracy theory, but I don't think she's wrong. Like, I think
she's absolutely right. I think
something.
she's totally onto something. Absolutely.
Yeah, she's onto something, that Gino is like embarrassed maybe because he doesn't want to have sex, or that there is some kind of sexual dysfunction happening, and rather than admitting it, it's just easier for him to pretend to have these, or not even pretend, but to start these fights or do these things that he knows are going to start fights, to then blame her for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. And there's a certain amount of like loss of sex drive because he's getting older, right?
Yeah.
But this is like well beyond that. This is like, you know, the 8 months. And then also, again, his trying to undercut. It hasn't been 8 months. It's only been 4 or 5. Right.
Yeah.
And that to me also speaks to the communication thing they were talking about before. He literally does not believe what she says, even when she might bring evidence for it. That's not what I said. That's not what happened. Right. It's my better, more generous interpretation of what happened. That's what happened.
Yeah. He's just so terrible. Like, it's hard to believe anything that he actually says. And it does kind of, if I were Jasmine, I would feel the same way, in that, okay, let's say that he's pretending to, or starting these unnecessary fights because he has some kind of sexual dysfunction or lack of sexual desire. I would take it personally, extra personally, that he's watching porn.
Yes,
right? So
and she does. As she does. She's like, it's not like you aren't interested. Things, yeah.
Yeah, if she believes that he's really starting these fights to avoid having sex with her, but then on the side he's watching porn, like, I would be like, well, it's me. What's wrong with me?
Right. Because it would be one thing to believe like, oh, he's just not a very sexual person and that's not something that's not, but then there's no other kind of contact, no other kind of intimacy. I feel like he leaves her alone a lot of the time. And then on the side, it's like, no. And he clearly has a sex drive because he's watching porn all the time. Right.
Yeah. And that's what I don't understand. Like, why is he so desperate to be with someone? You know, it just feels like he's someone who is better off being a bachelor. I think maybe the only reason why he's maybe in a relationship at all is because he wanted to have children. And when he kind of realized that that isn't happening anytime soon with Jasmine because of how she feels in the relationship, I feel like that's when he's kind of like, okay, this is pointless. And I think he really would be better off and happier if he was just single and by himself.
I don't also discount that he literally sees her as a trophy wife. Like, she is a trophy. Yeah. She is hot. Yeah. Look how hot my wife is. Do I want to bang her? Not really. And that's how awesome I am. I can even like not bang my hot wife if I don't want to. Right. That's the kind of level of control I have over my life. But because everything he kept saying was just like, then break up. Like, why are you together? Oh, we fight every day. If I fought with someone so much every day that it completely killed my desire all across the board, and that happened for 8 months in a row, we'd break up. We're done. Why would you continue to try to make this work? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. But it definitely feels like they are just roommates, and roommates that don't want to see each other naked. So
not even the fun kind of roommates.
Right. Okay. So out of the group we saw, which is basically everyone but Nicole and Mahmoud, which Sean told us that they are not participating in this, so we will not be talking about or hearing from them. I wonder if we'll get like even a mini update on them.
I don't think so. I think we literally had Sean say they are not participating in the tell-all. Thanks for being in the season, and we will not hear about them at all.
Oh gosh. Okay. So out of the group, who was your student of the week?
It's funny because we really usually don't like these people, but I'm gonna go with Patrick for being like the little bit of a shit thrower. Like, it's certain times when you're like, he is related to John. Like, that is his brother. Like, I can see where that came from. And he was like, he was the one. I just thought he was more he's not taking this as seriously as everybody else. And that's what I appreciate about
Sure.
it. He's like, we got here first. That means we get dibs on the room, right? That's how that works. All right, cool.
Yeah, I actually went with Jasmine, and having nothing to do with Gino or, whatever was going on with that, even though I was Team Jasmine with their arguments and fights or whatever, just how she treated everyone else. And I know that was so much of a contrast from the first season that we saw her, where she was coming at everyone and, really kind of starting things. And, now it's just that she's trying to be a girl's girl, and I just really appreciated the fact that she was so supportive of Liz. She was, very empathetic to Emily being pregnant and uncomfortable. Like, she's, trying to be a girl's girl, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What about your dunce?
Oh, I'm going to go Angela. That's just,
yes, I did too.
That was just abuse. Like, that was just ridiculous abuse. And she shouldn't, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say about it besides that. Yeah,
I agree. Absolutely. Okay, so that brings us to life lessons. Do you have a life lesson?
All right, if you're gonna, this is a little bit of a silver one. It's kind of at Ed and, Liz's mom going that. If you're gonna throw out phrases and wisdom and proverbs and stuff, know what they are. Purgatory hell was one, right? And the other one was Ed was like, he said something like, oh, it takes 2 to make a relationship and 3 to break it. That's not the phrase. It takes 2 to make a relationship and 1 to break it. That's what the phrase is.
Yeah. My life lesson is also inspired by Ed and Liz, but really it's Jason. Never should you have a situation, paid or not, where your ex is confronting your current significant other. Yeah, never. That is a bad idea. Like, no good can come from it. Like, you can't be mature in that situation. Like, just don't ever do that. No. And it's like one of those things, at least in this situation, they were forced together by the show, right? I couldn't imagine, like, if my current partner was like, oh yeah, I called your ex up to tell him off, and be like, you did what? What? The fuck would you do that? What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah. All right. So we will be back again next week because apparently we have 4 more parts to this. 4 more of these. 4 more, which is a whole other season of something all on its own. Yeah. All right. So until then. All right. See everybody then. Okay. Bye. Okay, bye.